Namaskar. So sometimes the wind, it's blowing in our favor, and sometimes it's not. The important thing is to figure out how can we keep progressing in life, no matter what is going on in the external world. So I recently had a kind of rough week. Actually, it started out really inspiring. I went to a conference, and I'd been working on this project. We're doing projects here in Romania for Ukrainian refugees. And I'd been working on these therapeutic stories, and I'd gone to the printer to print out a sample of one that was just finally ready at the last minute. And I come into this meeting and I managed to meet the head of the funding organization and present the project and show this beautifully printed coloring book that we'd made. And, you know, he was quite excited about it. So I left that meeting just floating, you know, just feeling so optimistic, feeling so inspired, feeling so empowered, really looking forward to, you know, one of my dream projects happening. And then the next day, in the morning, I'm working with my colleague on a subsidy for our NGO and to keep our children's home going. And we realized that one of our colleagues who, you know, had to contribute part of the information, she was on vacation. She wasn't available. And this put a huge stress on us. And then I left to go to a meeting at the kindergarten, and I get there and I find out that not one, but two of my employees from the same shift both announced to me at the same time that they're leaving by Monday. No, so it gives me less than a week to find somebody to replace them. So sometimes this happens, you know, so many problems happen all at once. In fact, the nice thing about when too many things happen all at once is that you kind of have no choice but to surrender, but to trust. And in that moment, somehow I felt I should be more panicked, rationally, logically, but I had a deep feeling that everything was going to be okay and that it would work out and it would even be better. And it was, you know, now I can say a couple weeks later that things are finally starting to settle down. We had a rough time. There was also an autumn festival to organize and so much going on. But in the end, you know, things turned out beautifully, and new people have come into the team that are the right ones, and the subsidy was submitted, and also my dream project is underway. Like it's still in process. But this is what happens. You know, life goes up and down. And sometimes we have these moments that give so much inspiration, and sometimes it just feels like one after another, so much clash is coming, so much difficulty, so many obstacles. So if we're measuring our progress by those external things, we're going to get demoralized. You know, I would feel really down. But when we're measuring our success by not measuring our success, but by rather developing an attitude of trust, of openness, you know, and surrender, of letting go. These are the moments I feel I personally feel I've made the most spiritual progress somehow. You know, it's easy to are you really making spiritual progress when your meditation is blissful, when everything's going smoothly? I feel like those are the moments when you're gliding, no? When you're enjoying actually the results of the effort that you've put in to reach a certain point, and then for a moment you get that grace and you can just glide. It's like bicycling. I used to do some endurance, long distance bicycling, and we would go on the hilly 100. It was 100 miles in the hills of Bloomington in Indiana. And when you would be climbing a hill, you know, you have to put in so much effort to get up to the top of the hill. But when you get to the top of the hill, then you can enjoy the result of all that effort, and you get to glide down the hill. You don't have to put any effort. You can enjoy the speed. But as you're getting at the bottom of the hill and there's another hill in front of you, you have to start already accelerating, even as you're still going fast on the downhill, because you have to make sure you're going to have enough momentum that you don't end up having to walk your bike up half the hill. So it's somehow the same. No, I feel like when I have these moments that are externally conducive and blissful and it feels like things are moving in the right direction, there's another hill coming. You can be sure there's another hill coming. So already you're going to have to start preparing for it and getting that speed, getting that inspiration, getting that courage and optimism to be ready to face that next hill, that next obstacle, so that you can sail past it and then enjoy again a bit of grace. But it's never going to just be uphill, and it's never going to be just downhill. This reminds me of some wise advice I received from one of my senior brother monks a few years ago. I had just been for my training to become an avadutika, to become a senior nun. And when I went to India, I just had such an intensely blissful experience before that, in a very long kirtan program, a lot of meditation, and opening up my heart in a new way that I just felt like, at last, I've understood how to meditate. And I felt like I was at a whole new level of meditation, and it was very blissful. I came back to my fields, and within a few days, many problems and issues came up, and boom, I just felt like all of that bliss, all of that inspiration, it just evaporated. Where did it go? And you will also have this experience. Spiritual realizations are sometimes this, it's just like you feel like, oh, at last, I finally got it. I get it now. Yes, this is it. Now I finally found how to enter into deep meditation and blissful experience. And, you do reach a new stage of realization, but it also doesn't last. When I went to this retreat and I met this senior brother monk who's very wise, and he just said to me, yes, after 30 years of meditation, what I realized is, no matter how high you go, again, you will go down. And no matter how down you go, again, you will go up. And it's true. This is exactly how spiritual life works. It is a series of ups and downs. And spiritual progress, if we can call it that, isn't about measuring the bliss and how high you can go. It's actually about developing the character, the strength, the courage, the optimism, the hope to endure those ups and downs and to keep moving forward. If we only move forward when the wind is blowing in our favor, our progress is going to be very unreliable. It's like the metaphor of a boat on the sea trying to reach the shore. And you can imagine that sometimes the tide is with you. And the tide, the currents, the ocean currents, they're helping you to move towards the shore. You don't need much effort. You're moving very quickly towards the shore. And then suddenly the tide changes, and now it's pulling you out to sea. And to move forward is a real struggle. It's easier if you stop, if you surrender movement, what's going to happen? You're going to move backwards. So if in the time that the current, the tide was in your favor and it was helping you to move towards the shore, if in that period you're rowing your boat, but then as soon as the tide is unfavorable and it's moving against you, you kind of just give up. then you're going to lose all that progress you made. The tide is just going to take you right back to where you started. But if in that moment, when the tide starts changing and it's no longer in your favor, if that's the moment that you really start to row, you might not be going forward as much as you were when the tide was helping you. Your progress might be imperceptible. It might be that you're almost staying in the same spot, that you're not really visibly moving forward. You're just trying not to move backwards. But the fact that you're not moving backwards is a progress in that moment. Because if you had if there was a buoy there or some landmark, you move forward with the current, you've passed that landmark, but then when the current is moving against you, you're right back there again. But here, you've passed the landmark and you keep going, keep working, even as the tide is against you. Now, you just struggle to stay in place and not go back to that landmark. That means that the next time the tide is going to be in your favor, you've really passed that landmark. You're never going to need to go back there again. That struggle that you had, you've really overcome it. And perhaps with the next flow, you even make it all the way to the shore. So the moments of struggle are where we are developing our muscle. That's where we're developing our spiritual strength. And this is part of the philosophy of the spiritual path. It's that obstacles, they're not there as a punishment. They're not there because you're bad. They're there to help you make progress. They're there to strengthen you. You get stronger when you're struggling. When you glide and enjoy grace, that's kind of like, the moments that you get to enjoy the fruits of all that struggle. Because life can't be only just struggle all the time. Then where would we have the joy? No, where would we have the inspiration and the motivation to keep doing that struggle? So struggle is usually followed by, it's like the uphill and the downhill with the bicycling. No, you're going to struggle uphill. And there will be a moment, you don't know exactly when, but there will be a moment of gliding. There will be a moment in which the grace just comes, and without effort, you feel that you're making progress in your inner life. Your inner life is flowing. But your inner life is nourished by the attitudes that you have in your outer life. So when we are able to cultivate this attitude towards obstacles, it helps us to develop a positive attitude no matter what is happening. And that positive attitude nourishes and strengthens our inner flow, our inner life. We don't just give up. We don't get demoralized on our spiritual search, on our spiritual path. And the more that it happens, the more that we trust that grace will come. And sometimes when you least expect it, or when things really seem like, I can't see how this will get better. Another story comes to my mind. I was going through another really difficult period of my life. I was in Italy with another Didi. And we had a period where we had no money. We had both run out of money. And we went that weekend, both of us, different places on tour to lead some meditations, the seminar. Anyway, I went somewhere and, the people there gave me a very modest donation. And it ended up being just enough, to buy the ticket, and maybe I had another 10 euros left over. I got on the train and it was the wrong train. It was a train that, needed an extra, you had to pay an extra fee to be on that train. It was like an interregional or whatever, intercity instead of interregional. It had an extra cost. And the conductor found me on the wrong train and he fined me. And so all the money I had in my pocket gone to the fine. I came home with nothing. I get home and I meet Didi, and she's like, the one thing that we had in that period was a bicycle. It was our only form of transportation. We no longer had a car. We had nothing except this bicycle. And when she went on tour, she left the bicycle locked at the station. She came back from her tour, no bicycle. So she comes back no bicycle, we both have no money. And I'm like, this is too much. I mean, it was almost ridiculous. It was almost like a joke, you know, that it was almost funny, you know? So I went and surrendered. I went to go do my meditation, and I was just like, I did my kirtan with my arms up, and I'm like, okay, whatever you want. I don't know what you want. This is your problem. You're going to have to solve this. And then I did my process at the end of meditation. You know, there's a beautiful gesture that really expresses the feeling of letting go and of surrender and of humbleness. And it's the gesture of kneeling and putting your forehead to the earth. You know, and this gesture of touching the earth with your forehead, this just allows all your tensions and stress just to be like you're giving it to the earth, and the earth is just receiving it. You know how the earth can be like used for grounding lightning. I feel it's like this. I feel it's like all these tensions, energies, whatever in my head, just surrender it. Just let it go. Let it go. Feel, you know, that I'm offering it to the Supreme. And I did that. And then, you know, one of our brother monks, he called us, and I told him the absurdity almost of the situation. I was almost kind of laughing. And he immediately, you know, we could give you a bike. And then the next day, also somebody showed up with some food and some donation, and we were fine. We were completely taken care of, you know. So I felt like the situation was just to test, just to help me to experience that, facing that fear, but of not having my needs met or whatever, and just letting go and trusting it would work out, and it did. And so those types of experience only strengthen your trust, your surrender, your ability to let go and feel protected in this divine flow. And to see these obstacles as an opportunity, you know, an opportunity to experience that kind of grace. So I feel blessed often by many opportunities to let go and to experience grace. And really, I am grateful for that. I'm grateful that my life isn't boring, that always it's filled with newer obstacles and newer forms of letting go. And I do think that, you know, gradually it's helping me to develop more trust, more faith in the benevolence of the universe, and in the divine's ability to solve things better than my limited mind can. So thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to learn more about meditation with the course or to subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you. Namaskar.